Hello, good evening, welcome. Chris Hughes from Rebound on another Upstreamedia's daily YouTube show. Really excited for tonight's show. I'm joined by Kayne. Welcome, Kayne. I hope you're well.
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thank you. Appreciate you having me here, Chris.
That's all right. It's all right. I really love. Shout out to Upstreamedia for having this platform for me to talk basketball. I've learned lots from chatting to you guys, and it's the players, coaches, officials, and refs. If anyone's new to the channel today, be sure to subscribe. During the regular season just on, they were doing the live stream for Thames Valley Cavaliers home games, and obviously during this time we do a daily show for a broad range of topics to discuss. So give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and really look forward to having Kayne on. We're going to talk a bit about this season. We're going to talk about his off the court interest, how he got involved, stuff he's getting on, and we'll talk about sort of general British basketball topics. So it's a bit for everyone to take away from this. So I've really enjoyed having these chats, and thank you yourself for coming on and spend some of your time talking basketball. I thought we'd start with your basketball. You started with Derby in terms of your senior career. And you obviously had a really good season that season, being third. What were some of your memories from that season?
That season was quite a good season. Obviously, we started off really strong. I think we started 7-0 maybe. Went into the Christmas break 9-1, but unfortunately, Rima Lascelles and Josh Ward-Hibbert, they ended up going to obviously Leicester Riders and Loughborough Riders, which nobody had any animosity towards them. But one of the memories is obviously we played Loughborough in the quarterfinals of the playoffs. And I think Josh had quite a good game against us, which resulted in us obviously losing out in the playoffs.
Definitely having that really good start must give you guys a lot of confidence, and obviously very good memories have for your first senior season. Since you've obviously been a senior there and obviously you weren't there for this season, one thing I've really noticed the last few seasons that Derby's quite a solid. It's all but one last 5 or 6 seasons they finished in the top 5. What are some of the factors you think are behind that success?
I'm gonna have to say people buy into the system that Matt Shaw puts out there. We've never really had many egos. We've always had quite good leaders in older guys that have always been at the club since I've been there. We've had leaders like Dan Watts, Tintin Watts, his brother, Sidney Donaldson, Rima Lascelles, Chris. We can go on for a long time about the leaders. So they definitely put a good blueprint out for the younger guys that follow in the footsteps.
Definitely, and I think you basically put up people buying in, and a lot of people would probably know Mount Smith signed a 2-year deal, so he's definitely going to be there next season, that second year of the contract. And obviously, then you spent your season with Worthing, but before we get on to that, I was wondering, obviously, you talked about our first season. What are some of the other memories, maybe highlights that you'll look back on from that first stint with Derby as memorable, if that's sort of best reason, or maybe for some of the negative reasons?
It's memorable for me because obviously it was my first season playing good minutes. I was on the D1 team and the D2 team before, but obviously with Rima leaving and me being a point guard, it made my role, it advanced my role massively. So yeah, that's definitely a memory there. And then all the guys that I was playing with, it was just a great team to be on, great bunch of friends. People like Chris Taylor, like I mentioned, Maxwell Morris, who went out to Italy after, Leighton Elliott Sewell, who's now going to New York, Amberlino twins, Brian and Adria. It was just a great bunch of guys. OJ Stanley, who's still playing for Derby now. Yeah, so definitely great. A lot of memories, obviously, going up and down the country. But yeah,
definitely, and say obviously, perhaps on a personal level, I think it was 17-18 season. You were the assistant leader. I guess if you have people buying into the coach's method, it's easier for you to put that end product on the floor. But what were some of the factors in you becoming the assist leader? Was it certain plays that worked really well, or was it a team effort in terms of everyone being in that right place for you to assist them on those points?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of everything, really. We have, obviously, I can't get an assist unless I got good teammates that can score the ball as well. A lot of the players that we've run, I've been running since a junior. So I know how they work. I know little tips and cheats I can get out of just getting a quick assist. When I've got shooters like the twins and Jake Wesleyan, there's guaranteed assists right there.
Definitely. You mentioned about the sort of the system they have in place where you've got the academy, which is also coached by the same coach. Um, how do you think that benefit? I think that's a really good model to have that sort of progression from juniors
Yeah.
to seniors. What are some of your members? So I imagine you're all trained together, you know each other well. What are some of the players that maybe in that academy we've not heard about, but you think, oh, they're ones to watch for the future?
Yeah, it's always great having the same coach for the academy and the senior team because you can just mix them in. Everybody knows each other. Everybody knows the players. Everybody knows the coach's mentality. So yeah, it's definitely great. Obviously, I came through the Derby Academy as well, so I've been knowing Matt Shaw a long time. So yeah, that was good. You probably heard a lot about him, but Blake Bowman, he's on the rise, man. Like he's doing a lot of good stuff right now, and he's got the right mentality for it. That's the main thing. As long as he keeps his mentality right, sky's his limit.
Definitely, we did a feature on him and the other two guys, part of those, who sort of stepped up to that first team. What is it about their game that makes them so effective? I know they've got the physical skills and they obviously have the parts of the game that make it very attractive to watchers for the viewers' point of view. But what part of their game impressed you most?
With Blake is very athletic, very very athletic. He's right-handed, but he dunks with his left, so he catches a lot of people out with that. But yeah, again, mentality, work ethic. He's always working. Even now in lockdown, he's still working out, getting shots up. Guys like Cameron Hildreth, again, same mentality. Played with him in Worthing. Great mentality, great work ethic. Skill set's amazing. So yeah, them guys are special.
Definitely. I was going to touch a bit later, but as we sort of just mentioned it now, you mentioned Cameron, you mentioned Blake. But are there any other youngsters that sort of catch your eye? Because I definitely get the impression that in terms of British basketball, it's quite promising size in terms of the next generation.
Yeah, I saw Elijah Welsh. He's he's good. He's real good. There's a couple guys at Derby that are going to start catching people's eye. They just need to find that same work ethic that everybody else is. So Enrique, Carl, you'll hear about them eventually.
Definitely, we'll keep an eye out for it. You say it's great to have the academy with the team, and it doesn't seem to be a coincidence, but if you look at teams that are doing well in the NBL one, they've got that academy behind. You've got the Solent, you've got you guys, you've got Reading, you've got Loughborough. It definitely seems to be, but if you've got an academy side behind you, it makes things a bit easier. What are your opinions on that? And sort of having been at Worthing and obviously seen the league for a while, what are your thoughts on if it's a real benefit to have an academy team or what other ways do you think it really worked?
I think the academy is good because guys are getting in more game time experience, more training time. The academy levels, it's a good level to play at for these young guys. The EABL is getting bigger and better. Yeah, it's great for them really. As long as they're getting the game time in, they're getting the work done as well, like their schoolwork done as well with their basketball. The academy is great.
Definitely, and I think they've got a lot of things to juggle. Because you're saying they've got the EABL, then some of the academy players they got to play NBL as well. Then obviously got looks at off the court. What are your memories back when you were going through that system yourself? What were some of the takeaways that you thought, oh, I wish maybe that was a bit different, or maybe I wish the ELBL games were on different days, or what were your memories sort of going through that system?
I just wish I appreciated it more, really. I think I just let the time slip by. Obviously, looking now, like a lot of the things I was doing, obviously mixing schoolwork in with playing basketball, you can take them into everyday life now. I'm 23 years old and trying to figure out how to work, play basketball at the same time. I was doing the same thing at school, so I definitely wish I appreciated it more and I didn't take it for granted.
Definitely. I think you sort of mentioned there sort of a great message that you transfer verbal to other walks of life. I think I'm quite aware maybe to make sure in this lockdown I don't take things for granted, try to use my time as
Yeah.
I can. And I see that you've got that work ethic, as I say, from following you on Instagram, I see you doing the barbering and you're also doing the Photoshop, so you're definitely trying to improve and develop yourself. I thought we'd start with the barbering to see I think that's a passion of yours a bit longer. For people who don't know, how did that all start? What was the inspiration for you to start doing hairdressing and barbering?
So the whole thing was I was trying to figure out how to have a job and play basketball at the same time. So it came about that barbering's a really good job to have to like, you've got enough time to do other things as well. So if you plan your time, use your time correctly, I could play basketball as well and not really affect my performance.
Definitely. And I've seen that you've had some of the Derby boys come in to have haircuts. What's the advice they've given you, or how's that been sort of helping out your teammates for a good fade or a good haircut? What's that been like?
Yeah, they was worried when they got in the chair, but they left kind of happy. So I don't mind as long as the people leave the chair looking good and feeling good about it. That's the main thing, really.
Definitely, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there at the moment who are looking forward to going back in the chair and getting that
Yeah, for
haircut. And
sure.
I've been quite fortunate myself. We were talking off air. My girlfriend's done my haircut. She hasn't done too bad a job. She's watched a lot of YouTube videos on advice. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there. Maybe they think, oh, I need to get my haircut done. What advice would you give to them in terms of barbering their hair? What sort of advice would you give to them, having the experience you've got?
Wait it out. You don't want to mess up your own hair. I tried it. I tried it myself. It didn't go too well at the back, so this is why you see the do-rag. I'm wearing hats all the time. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not too sure if you should be doing your hair yourself, but leave that for somebody else.
Sounds good advice. And sometimes you're quite oblivious. I've had guys on with caps. So I thought, oh, their caps look cool. But it's after, oh, sorry, I had the cap on, so my hair was awful. So I'm sure there's a lot of guys in the same boat. You didn't need to reveal that. But I see when the Derby Trailblazers shirt, and obviously I think everything's up in there. But what are sort of your plans for next season? What you're thinking about in terms of making that next move? What the options you're considering?
Well, obviously everything's up in the air, like you said. We're not sure when we'll be going back, but hopefully get back to D1, try get that assist title back. See what can happen. Really, I'm just excited about playing basketball again. Really, that's the main thing. But whenever it is, as long as we go back and everybody's safe, that's the main thing.
Definitely, and I think getting to D1 or BBL is everyone's goal to be as high as possible. But partly from doing this and partly from seeing highlight videos of the guys at D2, D3, I definitely get the sense there's a lot of guys at D3 who are playing well. And obviously, for people not aware, you start to see some Worthing. It didn't work out. You went back to Derby to be in D3. What were some of the players you came up against or you played with that you thought, oh, these guys are probably could be playing D1?
It's a real good question. I said there's a lot of, I can't name them, but the Doncaster team that was in our league, some of them guys they could definitely suit up for a D1 team. They just play well as a team, so everybody looks even better. Kieran Jones, he plays at Stoke-on-Trent. He can score when he wants. He's been doing this, really. He's been scoring for as long as I can remember. And I'm going to have to shout out the Northamptonshire Titans. Even though we didn't play against them guys were making a lot of noise. And I know a lot of them guys personally, Jason Tucker, Leon. Leon was there for a while. Merson. They got a guy called Daniel down there. I think every single one of them guys can play D1.
Definitely, you mentioned it, sort of how D3 is regionalised, so he obviously didn't play NEBC, and they went 30%. We had Leon on the other day, and he was saying that likewise, there's a lot of talent D3, and I definitely want to see D2 and D3 have a bit more exposure. So if I get the time, I will try and cover it more because I think there's a lot of talent there. I thought we sort of talking about this season just gone. Obviously, you started with Worthing. How did that move come about? When were you aware that Worthing were looking at you as a prospect for that season?
Um, well, a good friend of mine put me on to Zaire Taylor, and I got a call from him during the summertime when I was working out. I was actually looking at going elsewhere. I was looking at going abroad, either Italy or Germany. But Zaire was very enthusiastic about me coming down to Worthing. He set everything out on the table, let me know what was going on, players were bringing in. I just thought I'll buy into it. It was time for a change, really. Me and my coach at Derby discussed that it's probably best for me if I look elsewhere, get different experiences. So yeah, he just called me a couple of times. We spoke a few times, and then I moved down there mid August, I think.
Yeah, so obviously it's really good to get different experiences, and we'll talk a bit off air about is that balance as you want to try these different experiences, but also if you've got the setup right where you are, that makes it enticing enough to stay where you are. Having had that experience of Worthing, what sort of a learning points do you take away in terms of when you think about what you're going to do next season? Has it changed? Has it made you think about want to stay home more, or has it things like, oh, actually, I'll do this differently, or what are your thoughts about what would factor in terms of making your next decision?
I'll definitely think about going away. Right now, I'm looking at staying in Derby because I'm trying to obviously still pursue the barbering career. I'm learning in a great place at the minute with two friends by my side. So it's great staying in Derby. But I will definitely look at going away again. That's definitely still in the goal, still part of the plan. I learned a lot down in Worthing, a hell of a lot. Everybody down there is great. Their whole setup's amazing. Their fan base, made a lot of friends down there. The volunteers down there are great. Made a couple of brothers in people like Ish, Tom Ward, Cameron Hildreth. I appreciate seeing the leadership of like the guys of Alex Awumi, Zaire Taylor. Very different ways of leadership, but they're both great guys.
Definitely, I'm really interested to see how Alex, obviously retiring, transitions into that off the court leadership. I'm sure that'd be really interesting. I'm sure he'll still be influential. He's got an amazing story. I read this book the other day, The Point Guard,
Yeah,
and to Davis Point Guard. And if any of you guys have not read it, it's a really good story about Alex's career, growing up, travelling abroad, being part of a team essentially run by Colonel Gaddafi, and some of the hardships. Amazing story. And imagine
yeah. Check
being
that
around
out. People have definitely got
him.
to check that out.
Definitely.
People have
And
definitely.
imagine being around him and Syed. These guys have sort of been there and done it. I'm sure there's a lot of advice they gave to you and maybe others. What are some of the best advice or best memories you have from off the court with those guys?
The main thing was it didn't work out. Obviously, my style of play wasn't. It didn't fit their system at the time. But they told me what I needed to do really. So it would just become more aggressive in what I do. I took the laid back approach of being the point guard, putting everybody else on, getting assists. But they said I've got other abilities that I need to use. So they wanted me to be way more aggressive, and in my time there, I just wasn't aggressive enough, I guess. But like I said, I learned a lot. The advice is great. I take criticism well, so I've definitely learned from that. Took it into my D3, hopefully looking to take it on even further. So yeah, but a lot of memories with them guys,
Def-
man. It's just different down there. It's a whole different vibe down there in Worthing. I was in Brighton as well, living in Brighton, playing in Worthing. But a lot of memories, a lot of good memories.
Definitely. And just for what you're saying, like, I just, as a fan, obviously, the upper players' eye for the sort of tactical nuances and all that. But I imagine with you being grown up in Derby, playing a certain style, certain way, was it just because that way was different to Worthing? Are there any other styles of teams you've seen D1, but you think, oh, that's a really good style? You hypothetically think, oh, I'd fit in that system well. That would be a fun team to play with. From this season, what D1 team stood out for you?
We've got to talk about Solent straight away. Them
Yeah.
guys. It's amazing what they did. They went to the BBL final. Crazy. Went undefeated in D1, which is a very rare thing. I don't know if anybody's done it before, but it's unlucky for them that their season got cut short, because I think they would have got pretty much everything.
Yeah, they were historic. I don't think anyone had got to the semi-final before, let alone overtime in the final. It was amazing. And you say, obviously, unfortunately, it didn't work out for you, Worthing. And you say, like, they gave you some good advice. But is there anything else you think about adding to your game? I know you're looking at getting that assistant leader back, but is there other parts of your game? I want to get that in part of my game. I want to be a bit better with this part of the game. What for you is stuff that you want to develop in your game?
I just want to be a all-round player. I just want to be able to do a bit of everything, really. So I look up to, obviously, he's my friend, and I've looked at him for a long time, Rima Lascelles. When he was in D1, he was doing everything, triple-double every other game. So I'm hopefully just looking to score the ball more, looking to rebound the ball more. I can play pretty good defense, but I'm always looking at improving my defense, because I want, when people come up against me, I don't want them to feel comfortable. I want them to know that I'm guarding them.
Definitely. And for me, I'm trying to learn more about the game, and obviously there's different types of defense. What defense do you prefer? Do you prefer like man-to-man, or do you prefer zonal? For you, what works best for you?
I think they should get rid of zone altogether. I like man-to-man defense. I just like people like having to guard each other. So obviously zone to zones, it's tactical and it works for a lot of teams and it's good. But if you're going to be on the court, you're going to need to defend as well. So man-to-man defense, I'd prefer that over there.
Definitely. And I think for me, I've noticed watching Sony, you sort of mentioned, there's a lot to the tactical side of the game. Did you feel like when you went to Worthing, to Derby, obviously that revealing the team's secrets, but did they play like different types of basketball, or was it quite easy to sort of switch from one style of play to the other? What were some bits maybe took you a bit longer to adjust to? But
Derby's a mix of both. Derby's man press, zone press, zone, half court, everything. Derby's a bit of everything. Whereas in Worthing, we didn't have any actual big guys, so it was more, we're going to have to man up and we're going to all have to do our jobs and we're all going to have to box out and get the rebounds. So I kind of enjoyed that part of it, playing defense down there, because it was man-to-man. That's what I'd rather play. And I hate when people score points on me. I had a couple of games where some guys got hot and I went home and thought about it, thought this can't happen again. So definitely man-to-man defense for me.
Definitely. And I had the guys from the Ballers Voice on the other day. We were talking about Cameron Hildred actually in one of our talks. And we were saying, because he obviously he trained with the Worthing guys the season before and had an amazing season. He's probably one of the most talked about players in the NBL. And I was wondering would he have that same effect on other teams? And I was wondering what you would have thought, what teams maybe in the NBL might not suit him, or maybe what coach might give him minutes. So I was wondering what you thought. What sort of teams do you think Cameron would have done well on?
I think he can adapt to any situation. I feel like he could play on any team. We've seen all season long what he can do. He's still 17, turning 18. It's amazing what he can do with the ball. It's clear he can score. If you want him to play the point guard, get some assists, he'll do that as well. But he plays a grown man game. I think a lot of teams thought, who's this 17-year-old coming into the league thinking he can do what he wants, but a lot of teams couldn't stop him, if any. So I feel like he would have been able to adapt to any team around the D1 league.
Definitely, and I agree with you there. And I think for me, watching first time was when he played Solon, and the first takeaway I took after that game was that terms of both teams, he was the most foul player, but also season by. If you look at all the points, rebounds, steals, assists, blocks, no player got better if you combined all of those. And
Yep.
for me, like shout out to Dave for just great work with the stats side of the game. And the more I'm learning, there's more to it with stats. I was wondering what, in terms of like the output of player, what things do you look for? What do you think is a bit undervalued? Because I think we can be a bit stat heavy in this, especially in the NBA, in this team. What parts of the game do you think are equally as valuable as stats?
Well, a lot of the defensive stats don't really show up. So all you got really is blocks and steals. There's guys that play great defense that are very underappreciated because they don't score 15 points, 20 points a game. So defense is definitely undervalued. IQ, it only really shows up in your assists sometimes, but people's IQ is definitely important in basketball. Cameron's got a very high IQ for his age. They're underappreciated as well.
Definitely, and we talked a bit about defense. In terms of like NBL players, who do you look at as some maybe the best defenders the league's got currently?
Trey Wilford, I'm gonna have to go for. He played at Derby. Obviously, he just steals the ball from everybody. Plays great on ball defense as well. He's a pest. Reese Pinnock at Loughborough, he's another one. Ish, I'm gonna have to go with Ish Fontaine down at the Worthing. He's a pest. People don't like playing against Ish. Ish is in your face all game. It don't matter when, how, who you are. He's gonna be there. So yeah, I'll go with them three guys. But there's a lot more guys that obviously I could pinpoint.
Of course, yeah.
I'll give Oliver Stanley a shout out as well. He's underappreciated, very underappreciated, Ollie Stanley.
Definitely, I think you mentioned all those guys you mentioned are definitely fitting that in that sort of ball of undervalued players, but offer quite a lot. Of maybe one or two of them do show the stats, but maybe two or three of them don't really sort of. If you compare the stats on paper, maybe you wouldn't notice those guys, but they definitely have that impact and exciting to watch in their own respect. So I thought we'd also talk a bit more about the general things. So we covered a bit about some of the young players, we talked about the defensive players, but also during your career so far, who would you say were like the toughest players you've had to play against?
Played against, obviously, when I was at Derby, played against Zaire. He was a couple of years ago pulling from the halfway line, 360 layups. He's got a very good offensive package to his game. Alex Roberts, he can score the ball. He's a great point guard. But yeah, there's a lot of guys that I can mention over the years. Obviously, been in D1 for 4 years. Too many names to mention, like how good offensively players are, but there's some of the guys that come to mind.
Definitely. And I mean, for me, Sias probably one of the best players in the NBA, just in the last few years. And I was really surprised. I think was it last season or season before he got a quadruple double. So definitely have an influence on the floor. And I still think he'd still play for the next couple of seasons. I'd be interested to see whether he'll be playing next year because obviously Alex is retired. Do you think we'll still see him next year? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, he's got some more years in the tank. You'll be seeing Zaire for a couple more seasons.
Yeah, I definitely think that he still had a great season this year. We talked a bit about your barbering, and I've noticed this year you've done a bit of photoshopping as well. For me, that's something I've learned a bit as well this season. And for me, what was quite surprising, coming from it with no experience, with art or media, it's actually quite easy to pick up. I was wondering if that's something you found too, and obviously it enhanced the stats. What was your experience with Photoshop, and what advice would you give to people thinking, I want to do some really cool graphics?
Yeah, it's a good hobby to pick up. Obviously, being in lockdown, I had to find something. Otherwise, I was going to go crazy. But I actually took A-level media when I was in the Derby Academy. So that's where I learned it from there. But I didn't do it for a couple of years and thought, oh, it would be a good thing to pick back up. So yeah, pick that up, just doing a little, seeing what I can do, still learning. Yeah, I think anybody can do it. You just gotta put a little bit of time into it, look at a couple of YouTube tutorials, and yes, you'll be fine.
Definitely, I agree with that there. For me, so with no experience that, I was quite surprised. There's so much to it. Obviously, it's a lot to learn. And obviously, like you say, watching YouTube videos helps. What's the best skill that you've really liked for it? What advice would you give to people sort of wanting to pick it up other than maybe watch YouTube videos? What sort of skills do you think are really good to have while using Photoshop?
There's too much you can do with it. You can do anything with Photoshop. So the more you know, obviously, the better it comes out. But there's just simple things you can cut out your image of yourself and put it on other backgrounds. You can add stuff into the images. You can make whatever. You can do whatever with Photoshop. So you just gotta have an idea in your head and then pick it up.
And definitely, and especially like I say, it's lockdown time to do it. It's definitely to learn, and I think it's easy to get overwhelmed. You mentioned it too, but it's sort of so much to learn. And I was speaking to Joe Pinchin about it. And I was like, "Oh, can I have some advice?" And obviously, he's go-to guys on some awesome graphics over the last few years to get the gig at Chicago. And I was like, wanted to sort of learn from him. So I think that's how we grow and learn from each other. And
Yeah.
advice that he gave me that I thought was really good was that watch a video to what you want to learn. Because otherwise, I think it's quite easy to get overwhelmed if you sort of look at it. It's a lot of features and
Yeah.
not where to start. But we'll do graphic on, so it's good to have that. And it's good to see that you're using that time to keep you busy and stuff. So I think it's quite easy if everything's going on in terms of the America. Obviously, COVID is going on. But maybe we sort of hit that heavy topic it's going on at the moment. Maybe what's your opinions in terms of how basketball to really sort of help in terms of promoting a better world with less discrimination? I think basketball and sport in general has that real good power to make some real change.
Yeah. I think people just need to speak up a lot more. I think a lot of people are sitting on the fence right now, and that's not, we don't need that. So we definitely need people to speak up and stand up for what's right. I feel like clubs need to be way more vocal, as they've got a lot of people that are within the club that are being affected by this. Like, maybe not directly, but it still has an impact on us, how we feel emotionally. So people definitely need to speak up a bit more.
Definitely, I definitely hear you, and I don't want to be a criticism or people educate themselves and being better humans. And off topic, I say for me, coming to rebound was frustration and lack of content out of different clubs. And for me, it's confused whether you say like clubs need to speak up. I'm like, is it because they're not saying the right message, or is it because actually they don't really put that much content out there? And so I thought would be really good is if the league or clubs to really take a strong message. We see in football where they have that "Say No to Racism" campaign. Maybe have a campaign where they put the voice of. I think that would be a really good way, but it's always there. Yeah. Because my worry is that media works in cycles, and I'm worried that all this good work people are doing in terms of trying to raise that awareness for nothing if it just gets lost in the next media cycle. So maybe what your thoughts on what we could do to make sure that this message doesn't get lost this media cycle, but actually it's a continuous positive fight for change.
Yeah, I think obviously social media is a massive platform right now. So people need to be speaking up. I think more educational stuff needs to be going on social media instead of the memes, the jokes. Everybody needs to be kind of learning about what's going on so we can understand and put a stop to it. I feel like a lot of people, because they don't understand and they're not educated, they don't want to speak on it at all. So instead of getting educated, they're just not saying anything, it's not going to make any change. So educational videos, pictures, anything like that, I think people should start promoting them a lot more.
Definitely, and I think if you're not educated on the matter as well, you can feel a bit confused about what to say or how to say it, or maybe not see it's a bigger issue than it is. So I don't think we often tackle it in history, tackle maybe more historical things, but in terms of everyday stuff like, but I can't dream. I think that was a big thing with George Floyd, but so many people in the last years, months, they've been in a similar situation, and I think unfortunately with COVID, but there's not much to report. But this has got a lot of momentum. But in the past, maybe it was swept under the rug. So I definitely see what you're saying about um, more education about help. Is there anything you think, like, other than maybe just sort of speaking out, anything maybe the league or maybe the big media companies or the teams to do? Because sometimes I think, like I say, they just need that education to realise that not saying anything is actually just as harmful as actually saying a negative message, I think.
Yeah, I think, like I say, education's key. So if one person can educate five people, that's a massive win. Then five people can then educate a couple more, and that's where everybody starts learning. So I feel like clubs need to be putting out a lot more messages, as they have a lot of people that are affected by it in the club. So going from men's down to the juniors, the minis, I think it needs to start being put across a lot more, so we can really put a stop to what's going on.
Definitely, and I think they have a responsibility, just like you say. A lot of the community are people that either affected it firsthand or friends and relatives, and for me, it's sort of a responsibility I feel I have to, as I say, we do a feature, get people like yourself who have those stories to tell, because I think stories can be really powerful in terms of making change. So I really hope that we can see real change. Just as the more I learn about it, the more you realise it's a global issue that's been affecting a lot of people even up to this day. Um, and I was wondering maybe what your advice is for people who are being affected by it now, or even maybe people who are sort of struggling with COVID, because both those issues are probably affecting people equally at the moment.
Yeah, so with the obviously the racial side of it, I'd say understand there is people for you to speak to, and people will listen to what you've got to say. You just got to find the right people around you. Me at the minute, I'm finding there's a lot of situations where people don't understand, and they're saying things that are unnecessary. So I'm cutting off a lot of people at the minute, to be honest with you. I think if you don't want to learn and you just want to put across the negative side of everything, I don't need you. I don't need to hear what you're saying, because it's just affecting me personally and affecting other people. So definitely, just people need to understand, if you're affected by this, there is other people that are, and people that are willing to talk about it. So definitely look for other people to
Yeah,
support you through this. COVID situation, I think we just need to hang tight on it. So one day we will get back to everything we want to do, but let's not make it worse by having a second wave. And I understand, I went out and protested the other day in Derby. So obviously people are worried about that creating a second wave, but everybody was wearing masks. Well, 90% of people were wearing masks. There were some social distancing going on, but racism is a bigger problem than the coronavirus. And I think if we don't stand now, then we're going to have an even bigger issue. So stay tight, hang tight. We'll be all right.
definitely. I'm glad you mentioned that latter thing, because I say I was in the car with my girlfriend, so I try to stay in, but sometimes I get out of the car just to try and get some fresh air. And I was reflecting on it, because I think it is different. You mentioned really good points, but maybe people are like, oh, why are they doing that when this is going
Yeah,
on? But I actually think I have a massive respect for anyone out there actually trying to say their message, because actually it's not, and the people maybe compare to other issues, but actually you guys are going out there because you're not being heard, not being represented, and it is probably a bigger issue in terms of the numbers as well. And you say, from my point is, I have a massive respect for you guys actually put yourself at risk. So I think people are saying that's what really surprised people. Oh, people out there rioting, and they were like say peaceful, not peaceful. I don't want to get into politics of
yeah,
that, but actually they weren't looking at the human effect. And I say, we all know we're trying not to make COVID worse, but I agree with you, because I think if you didn't do it now, the media cycle would die, but maybe you wouldn't get that unity that we've got at the moment. So I mean, it's great to see people will try to do social distance where it's possible, and also wear masks. But definitely, I think it's okay to have that voice, and they're probably not out the whole day. You're probably just going out for say your message and talk to people. I think both, if you're struggling with COVID and racism, I think talk is really proactive, and it can be hard to challenge those negative behaviours because you've got to think of your own mental health and what's the right fight for you guys. But I really respect everyone going out there, using that freedom of speech to have their message.
It is about unity as well.
Thought,
you touched on it. You touched on saying unity, so it is about that. Let's not make it white versus black. Let's make it everybody coming together. Don't bring up this happened and this happened, so that makes it all right for this to be happening. The rioting, I don't fully agree with it, but I can understand why it's happening. Let's not be doing stupidness by assaulting police officers, and let's everybody come together as one. That's the main message.
Of course.
Unity.
Of course, of course, unity is very important. I think that's how it needs to get across. For me, from reading more, I disagree with more people that say that. People are like, oh, why are you saying Black Lives Matter? But I think actually people not realise we're all united. We're not saying white lives don't matter. You're saying that the black lives are the ones that are being affected by this the most. It's like when you do a charity, you don't say all charities matter. You're pushing that charity at that time. And like you say, unity as well. I don't want to be a race thing because it could affect anyone, but we're all together. We should all be trying to help each other, make it a better world. I kind of thought we'd finish on maybe talking a bit about, as I sort of didn't want to leave on a negative bit, precisely, but maybe finish on a bit more basketball note. And I know we've talked a lot about your journey, and I thought maybe we could go back and what inspired you to want to be a basketball player. So I'm sure that's probably a strong moment for you when you thought, what inspired you to take up basketball?
Yeah, so I wasn't interested in basketball, to be honest with you. I was doing football. Obviously, football's the biggest thing in this country, sports-wise. I was doing kickboxing, swimming. I was just doing everything but basketball. But when I got into year 7, I got asked to play in a basketball tournament. Never played basketball in my life at this point. But I agreed to it because I love sport. So I went down to a tournament at No Baker, which is where Derby Trailblazers is held at. A coach there called Charlie Ford saw me. He's involved with Derby Trailblazers, Basketball England. And he didn't think I had basketball talent, but he could see that I could run fast, I could jump high. I was taller than everybody else. So he asked me to come down to a mini session, which Clarence Wiggin was holding. So yeah, I got involved through that. Started seeing basketball on TV. Allen Iverson was my first inspiration. Looked up to him. That got me involved. He had a different style of basketball, which it got me hooked straight away. So from then, it was about basketball. Quit football, quit swimming, quit kickboxing, quit all of it. Just basketball.
Definitely. From chatting to people, I'm really surprised that my story's not unique, because I got into watching basketball 3 or 4 years ago, and my first game, it was just by chance. I said, come watch this game, and I was hooked like yourself. I lost interest a little bit in football, lost interest in badminton. Look, it has that effect, doesn't it? Basketball's very infectious in terms of the way it's exciting to watch. Yeah. It's something going on. It's a really great game, and I think also touch on it unites a lot of people, whereas maybe other sports don't have that effect. But I wonder, why do you think that maybe a lot of people just sort of stumble upon it? What can be done to sort of grow British basketball to the new orders? You said yourself, you did hurt. It was only 2 years 7 you got involved, whereas I think other sports, they catch me on much younger than basketball. I wonder why you think that might be.
I just think because it's not put out there as much, people don't know where to send kids to go play basketball. So obviously in Derby, there's two now, but back when I was playing, it was only Derby Trailblazers, and people didn't really know about basketball like that to be able to send me in that direction. It's not really played, or when I was in school, it wasn't played in primary that much. Obviously, going into secondary school, that's when we started taking parts in more sports, more tournaments, which then that's how I found basketball for a tournament. So I don't think it was pushed enough back then. I still don't think it's pushed enough now. I think people like Dave Owen, Hoots Desi Reels, they're doing a great job. I think we need more of them people that are pushing basketball social media wise, because as I said before, social media is the biggest platform there is. So we definitely need more people that are trying to send a message out that basketball exists and show people the highlights of what it is, get people interested. Yeah.
I like what you mentioned about highlights. When I love NBL Live this season, but I've always been a bit on the fence with live streaming because I kind of feel that in terms of what British basketball has as a product, a lot of clubs rely on the people actually going to the game, paying that admission fee to help keep that club running. And I'm a bit weary about having that streaming platform. Maybe not. They wouldn't go and watch it. I know sometimes they see a stream on. I haven't gone because I thought, be a bit lazy, watch the stream. But I think what you said about highlights, definitely love to see more highlights. And I keep pushing the league, try to do more highlights. But I think if you have those highlights and that's shared, whereas I think if you're having to go to watch a game on YouTube, you've got to go to YouTube to watch it. And I don't think people would necessarily go and watch a game. Whereas actually, if you had that 3-minute highlight that was shared on Facebook, shared on Instagram, I think that definitely has a lot of power. I'm glad you mentioned it too. Is there anything else you think could be done? Because I think there are aspects of what maybe as a community we don't do as well as maybe other sports do. And I think mainstream media could play more role. I was wondering what you thought about that.
Yeah, I just think it obviously all comes down to the success of the national team. So if GB do well, I feel like more people get involved, more people take us seriously. So it's just more about, obviously, them guys are doing a great job at GB. It's just now about us getting some type of success in basketball at a global stage. But yeah, as long as we're pushing it from club to club, people like Joe Pinchin taking pictures, ending up in Chicago Bulls, it's all part of a movement. It's all going to put us on a higher stage. We need more people like that around.
Definitely, and I'm glad you made this reels. I really like their work, their little highlight clips, and you definitely see it's making a bigger audience. Obviously, Joe Pinch going to Chicago with photography. It's definitely need more of it. And one thing I've really enjoyed is having this platform talk about basketball and seeing so many other content creators out there. And I was wondering, maybe are there others that you've been watching? So I know for myself, I've been watching Baller's Voice, Chuck Duris, if you're having players. I don't know what content you've sort of been listening to that you've really enjoyed during this time.
Yeah, I've been listening to you guys, Baller's Voice, like you just mentioned. All these little podcasts going on. You can go to Ish's Instagram page and just hear all types of stuff. He talks a lot about stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of people pushing the sport forward and doing the right thing. I think we just need to magnify it. Just keep going, get a top 10 of the week every week. Hoop Fix, be involved with everybody. Desi Reels, like I said, he's kind of in the Midlands area. I think Basketball England should potentially give him money to go around different places, not just Birmingham, or hopefully we get more people in different areas where they can do it for their region. So I think they should definitely push what Desi Reels are doing. Definitely, you guys are doing a great job. Everybody that's pushing the sport forward is important.
Definitely, I think there's a lot of momentum. I hope next season it pushes forward. I've already tried reaching out to Basketball England. I think what would be a really great idea is having like a match of the day or a soccer Saturday morning thing where they sort of talk about it. To have different people, like you say, you have the guys in Desreals and Midlands doing it. You'd have guys in London or guys up north. There's lots of content. It's really exciting. I know when I speak to players who've been in America, they'll say what I'm doing is really good, but then if you were to look at America, you probably got someone like myself in each, or like the people mentioned, each
Yeah.
state, and it's a bit more coordinated. So I'm hoping next season they'll coordinate it more. So I've loved the NBA Live. That's been really great. It's got me watching games. Did part of the country I might not have been able to, so I really hope next season they continue. I think that's a really good point to leave it at. Sort of, we talked a bit about the momentum, and let's fingers cross it happens for next season. I'm really excited to see what happens. I really appreciate you coming on. Thanks for coming on, Tom.
Sorry, just to cut you off. we need the when I'm listening to commentators about when I was watching the Olympics and they're just saying stuff that it's not basketball terminology. We need the right people talking, right people commenting on stuff that's happening. So that's definitely a point, because you can't be telling me, oh, that's an amazing shot from long range and not understanding it's a 3-pointer. It's just stuff like that. Make sure we've got the right commentators.
Definitely. For me, one thing I do quite a lot is get my Amazon Prime, reading up more about tactics, all that stuff. Just if I get the opportunity like I have this season, I want to be doing better content. I think that's really important. And it's funny you mentioned that, because on my personal account, I was speaking to Gabby Lowe just yesterday. I was watching the 1966 World Cup final, and I had a little issue, personally, sort of, nothing major, but she was saying that she mentioned it quite a few times that the commentator at the game wasn't paid per word he said. And I was like, me personally, when I watch football commentary, I feel like they are being paid for the word they say, and it ruins the experience. But I think there's a balance, and it's good what you say. I think actually, if we have people commentating, like, you want them, like you say, to have that knowledge there. And obviously, I think one thing I've really learned from this is developing understanding. I don't know whether your perspective games you watch in your areas, but the fans who come watch the games, I feel you either got your die-hard fans who go every game, they know each player's strength and weakness, or they know who's a shooter free. Like, they'll probably stand up like bench stuff, like, well, yeah, I've seen this guy do a shot 4 or 5 times. Or you got the fans who don't know anything about the game, and then I feel they don't have that same experience. What's your opinion on that? Because I think that's a really interesting point.
I think it just depends on the person, really. When you come to Derby, we've got the academy kids that if a free goes in, they're jumping around, running around, where a fan next to them would be like, they don't really understand it. They just know a 3-pointer has gone in. So it's about, obviously, hopefully educating them so they understand what's going on and they can put a little free up in the air and everybody can get involved, because basketball you can get involved with. The fans are very involved with the game. The fans are the sick man, essentially. So they start learning about the game and understanding the game, and we're putting it across the right way. Fan engagement is a big thing.
Definitely. I definitely see clubs doing that. I've seen clubs put out the referees, the hand gestures to sometimes at a game, like, I'd hear people having, what's that mean? What's that mean? Or what's going on here? And you mentioned yourself, a lot of you see that academy boys, so you see them enjoying it. And I agree with what you're saying. The more you know, it betters your experience, just and you're more passionate about it, and you enjoy it more. And I think it's a great bug to catch. And I'm really hoping that all this digital content, or like I say, Desi will do the highlights. I'm really excited for next season. It's a shame with COVID, because I think if we didn't have a COVID situation, we've had all this media content, I'd be really interested to see it. So I think we'll see bigger fans at games. I think you get a lot more interest and stuff. So definitely food for thought. And I really appreciate coming on, sort of reinforce some of the views I had and hearing your story. It's been great having you on. I hope you get the role you want on your team next season, with fingers crossed. Is there anything you want to finish on? Maybe a message to the Derby Trailblazers fans or the Worthing fans? I'm sure they appreciate hearing from you.
I appreciate all of them guys. Worthing, thank you for taking me in. Literally everybody there was amazing. The fans, the engagement they have with the fans is amazing. Even just after the games, all the fans come onto the court, shake your hands, want a signature, take pictures with you. That's an amazing feeling. It feels at a much higher scale down there, definitely. My Derby people know what it is. Family. I love all them guys there. Yeah.
Definitely, and I say agree with you, Worth, and I say for anyone watching, stay safe, keep talking to people. So there's a lot of interest going on. I think Kayne said we talk to each other and keep doing what we're doing, try and make the world a better place, but also yourself, hopefully things fall in place and get back to watch basketball. So talk to yourself like making this basketball a bit more. So take care, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. And that's goodbye from me, Kayne. All the best for the evening. Bye now.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.